Coalition SOS says that urgent financial interventions are needed to ensure that the SABC has sufficient funds to pursue its mandate, its public service. SOS had a roundtable discussion at Wits University today to deliberate on what needs to be done to save the public broadcaster. Those discussions also centered around finding a sustainable funding model for the SABC.
Despite recent announcement that government would help the SABC to stay afloat, the search for a permanent solution continues. SOS believes there's a need for a total overhaul on how the public broadcaster is funded in order to keep it as a well-oiled machine. The lobby group says 88% of the SABC's funding, which comes from commercial funding, is not sustainable.
It's critical, I think, at this stage that the public broadcaster gets recapitalized, whether it's in the form of a government guarantee or a bailout, because we're essentially relying on creditors' notes at this point. We think that there is definitely a misunderstanding of the Broadcasting Act, because it clearly specifies that there is a role for the state to play in terms of the SABC's finances, and we're not seeing the political will to come to the SABC's rescue at this stage.
There's about 77% default in the payment of TV licenses, and delegates here have called on the SABC to utilize its legal instruments to trace those who don't pay for their licenses.
On the one hand, you have the Minister of Communications that's making very positive statements about supporting the SABC. On the other hand, you have the Minister of Finance that is being very tough, holding the purse strings and saying we're not going to move until we have a certain number of, I think there's 11 points that have been suggested before any support is given. For me, part of the problem is that you have a brand new board at the SABC, you have a brand new management in place, and they have not been given sufficient chance to act. They having to deal with a lot of the problems from the past.
There's a concession that the SABC may need to be restructured to meet the new digital era. Once all the financial hurdles are over, there's also been a suggestion that funds must be utilized towards sourcing new local content as opposed to mainly on management and staff overheads. Naledi Matlapeng, SABC News, Johannesburg.